taking that concept and those job responsibilities of the in-store luxury sales associate and then bringing them through automation, artificial intelligence, and technology as a standalone product that you can incorporate into your e-commerce brand to build that relationship and then remember who that person is on all your channels and cater to them throughout the lifetime of that customer.
Welcome to E-commerce Deep Dive, the show where we cover e-commerce business strategy and the future of shopping online. Your host is John Ghiorso, founder and CEO of Orca Pacific, a full-service agency dedicated to growing brands on Amazon. Every week, John talks shop with the biggest players in retail and e-commerce. In this episode, John speaks with Ben Parr and Matt Schlicht, the two co-founders of Octane AI, a conversational sales assistant for e-commerce brands. John, Matt, and Ben discuss humanizing the online shopping experience through personalization and best practices when it comes to building relationships with online shoppers. Thanks for tuning in and hope you enjoy the show.
Ben and Matt, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. So it'd be great to hear a little bit about both of your backgrounds and then Octane AI. Matt, maybe we'll start with you and then go to Ben.
Yeah, that sounds good. So yeah, first, thank you so much for having us here. Hello to everybody listening and watching. Good to virtually asynchronously see you as well. So I'm Matt Schlicht. I'm CEO and one of the three co-founders of Octane AI. Ben, who's also here, is president, and then one of the other co-founders. Ben and I have known each other for over 10 years. My super quick background. So grew up in Southern California, got kicked out of high school for a brief period of time because I hacked the computers, got back in, and then decided that, the internet was the place for me. I graduated high school in 2006. So things like Facebook and YouTube, those, MySpace was still even like a thing. And I was just fascinated by the internet. So instead of going to college, I moved to Silicon Valley. I kind of, in a really scrappy way, got myself into a company called Ustream, which at the time was one of the only companies pioneering live video. Now, live video is a feature in every single app that you have, but at the time, it wasn't. And so we were one of the only places that had live video. Imagine us as like YouTube for live video. We had Obama, we had Shiba Inu Puppy Cam, we had Snoop Dogg smoked weed live on video, which again, now that doesn't sound crazy, but at the time people were like, holy crap, what is happening? This is crazy. And I was able to lead product there. It was a very small team, ended up raising $100+ million, got acquired by IBM. After that, I went and worked with a bunch of celebrities. I managed Lil Wayne's digital for a couple years. I worked with almost every major rapper that you've probably heard of on the radio. And I still know a lot of people in the music industry, taught myself to code, did a bunch of stuff in Bitcoin. And then went through Y Combinator, which is for anyone who doesn't know, a very well-known kind of startup incubator in Silicon Valley where big companies like Coinbase and Airbnb and Dropbox came out of. And then in 2015, got super interested in messaging apps and automated conversations. And I actually visited China with my wife now, but my fiance at the time to go view I kind of went to China and toured it, and I saw how they use WeChat there. And there they use WeChat to do everything. It's a messaging app. They use it to work with businesses. They use it to communicate with customers, and nothing like that was happening in the United States. And came back, saw a huge opportunity to bring that same type of interaction and bring automation to conversation and messaging app to businesses. In 2016, we started Octane AI to do just that. And now we are super hyper-focused on e-commerce. We've expanded beyond just doing messaging apps to kind of conversation in general, with a huge focus on humanizing the shopping experience and bringing personalization to the entire customer journey, which we can talk about that probably for the rest of today. So that's me. I'll hand it over to Ben.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks, Matt. Ben, what about you?
Man, how do I even follow up on that one? My original claim to fame in Silicon Valley is that I was the co-editor and editor at large of Mashable, the tech news site, where I wrote 2,446 articles in my 3.5 years there and built a team of 50. Even before then, fun side fact, when I was a junior in college, I actually created a Facebook group called Students Against Facebook Newsfeed the day they launched the Newsfeed product. Now you can't think of Facebook without it, but I made this protest, 10% of Facebook joined, and I got on all the news channels, and Mark had to go and apologize. And then I had like conversations with him afterwards about like Facebook and the product and like how to improve it. Then I joined Mashable, and I met him for the first time in person. He just like laughed. Was like, you joined our side. Congratulations. Anyway, I did Mashable for 4 years. I left. I invested in a bunch of early stage companies. And because of that experience, I actually wrote a book called Captivology for HarperCollins on the science and psychology of attention, why we pay attention to certain people and products, and how to utilize that science to captivate the attention of others. I interviewed everyone from Steven Soderbergh to Sheryl Sandberg to David Copperfield and 50 of the world's top PhDs on this subject. Toured the country and everything, joined the boards, advisory board of Lufthansa and the board of directors of Samasource, now the Lila Jana Foundation, global AI initiative for giving people work using AI, and co-founding Octane AI with Matt, where he somehow tricked me into joining him.
Awesome. That's great, guys. That's a really impressive resumes, obviously from both sides. You know, the conversation here, I want to kind of focus on the concept of personalization and how it can impact e-commerce, especially direct to consumer. But maybe before we do that, what is the thesis around personalization? Like, why do you feel that kind of the time is right, that this is an important part of a customer experience?
Yeah, so that's a good question. That's something we think about a lot. And I think that this year, especially with COVID and so many people needing to work remote or not, not being able to go physically into stores for a lot of this year and doing a lot of the shopping online through e-commerce, it's like a really interesting year. I think there's like an experience that we think of when we think of personalization. It's like, okay, like what's like the starting point? Like how can you visualize the concept of personalization in something that's not related to e-commerce? And I think one thing we think about a lot is at a luxury brand, they have a position in their retail locations called the luxury sales associate. And if you go, and you can go Google this, just look up like luxury sales associate, like job postings, and you can go look at the description. And the responsibilities for this person are pretty interesting. Your job is to greet customers when they come in, help them shop, but it's so much more than that. Your job is to get to know them, is to understand their preferences, their concerns, their needs. Like, why are they here today, and who are they, and how often do they shop? Are they shopping for themselves? Are they shopping from somebody else? Have they purchased something in the past? And maybe at like, not a high, like a luxury brand like a Target or something, you have people who are still sales associates, but their job's not to get to know you. Their job is to just answer your question. They don't need to know your name. They don't need to know anything else. They direct you to the aisle, and that's it. At a luxury brand, their job is actually to get to know you and to build a relationship that lasts even when you leave the store. So oftentimes, like if you're going to go buy like $10,000 purses or $100,000, watches or something, you better believe that luxury sales associate, they're going to get your phone number. They're going to get to know you. Maybe they follow you on Instagram. And when you leave, they're going to talk to you. And it's not going to be spam. It's not going to be annoying. It's like you genuinely like buying these watches or you like buying these purses. And this person who works there genuinely wants to help you find the right thing and also have this like relationship with you. So that's a real role that exists in retail, and it's hyper personalized. And the goal there is to make you really confident as a customer in what you're buying and to feel taken care of and to feel like you're a VIP for this brand. Now, if you zoom out to e-commerce, this is really, I think people have had a really tough time figuring out how to do this type of experience online, whether you're a luxury brand or not. But especially if you're not selling really high priced items for thousands and thousands of dollars and you're making like $10, $30, $50 per order, it doesn't make sense to have a person that you hire to talk to every single customer, because you might have 1,000 people a day, 100,000 people a day, even hundreds a day is way too much to do this. And so a thing that we focused on in Octane AI, and this is kind of like our whole thesis and where we are really excited about the future of personalization for e-commerce, is taking that concept and those job responsibilities of the in-store luxury sales associate and then bringing them through automation, artificial intelligence, and technology as a standalone product that you can incorporate into your e-commerce brand to build that relationship and then remember who that person is on all your channels and cater to them throughout the lifetime of that customer.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I have this kind of view on e-commerce that a lot of e-commerce up until this point has been trying to replicate what happens in the physical world to get it kind of good enough, where then, you win on convenience, you win on price, you win on selection, and then everything else is like just good enough for someone not to have to go to a store and they're willing to buy online. But I think there's this entire exciting future of e-commerce where we're actually starting to talk about experiences that are fundamentally better than what you could get in a physical location. And being able to bring the experience of buying a Rolex to buying a pair of Levi's, where, Levi's direct to consumer store could never afford that level of associate to kind of get to know that person, et cetera, is a really interesting idea. So, talk to me about how this works specifically. Like, I'm a direct to consumer site. I'm wearing an Untuck shirt right now. I don't know if they're a customer of yours, but they're obviously a success story in direct to consumer. If I'm going to untuckit.com and they're using your software, your service, how does that work? Like, what's the customer experience?
Yeah, so I think one, let me go over what most people do right now, probably like 99.9% of stores, which is the current, or previous best practice, which is somebody comes to your store, you let them browse, you give them good categories, and then you probably use pixels, like a Facebook pixel, to track what people look at or what they add to the cart. And then when you show them ads on Facebook or Instagram, instead of showing them generic ads, you're going to show them ads based on what they looked at or based on what they added to the cart. And that is, huge. Like, if you didn't do that and then you move to doing that, that's a huge jump in the level of personalization that you're doing. If you also apply that to email or text message or messenger, that's also a huge jump. What we are providing is a massive upgrade to that. So instead of just making decisions based on customer actions, we provide technology that actually gets to know the customer and figures out what are their preferences, what are their needs, what are their concerns. Here's a product that you should get. And then let's also remember that information in a centralized buyer profile and be able to dynamically use it across all marketing channels. So now we can personalize your email, your ads, your Facebook Messenger. So what this experience would look like is oftentimes through a shop quiz. So let's say I land on a beauty brand. So like Beauty Bio is a brand that we work with. When you land on their website, they're going to prompt you to go find your perfect skincare routine. And when you go into that, it's going to take you to a full page that is going to ask you a series of questions. And it looks really beautiful. It looks totally on brand with the store. They use icons and GIFs and images. It's going to ask you, what's your skin type? What's your age? What's your skin concern? Like, what kind of routine are you looking for? Do you want something in the morning or at night? Are you looking to do kind of like an AM, PM type of thing? And then it's going to present you with a personalized routine that it created just for you based on your combination of answers. You can then purchase that routine right there. But if you don't, Beauty Bio is actually saving this information through Octane AI. So this whole quiz experience is powered through Octane AI. The information is saved in the buyer profile on Octane AI, and it can be synced with their email. So if they want to do specific segmentation for automated welcome series, or if they want to send out a new campaign to people with a specific skin type, they can do that. Everything is also synced with Facebook ads. So there's custom Facebook pixel events on every single answer and every single unique routine that is generated. So if someone goes and takes half the quiz, they don't give their contact information, and you want to go retarget them in a very personalized way based on the information you did get, you can already do that, even though you didn't get their email. This is also synced with SMS and Facebook Messenger, which they can send campaigns or automations through the Octane AI platform as well. And so that's what it looks like. And you can create these shop quizzes for almost any industry, right? The way to think about it is that luxury sales associate. Like, if someone is to walk into your virtual store and you were going to help them find the perfect thing for them, you probably already know that this customer is coming to you with a concern. So skincare or anything health related. You're like, oh, I need these vitamins, or my skin's breaking out, or I need, something related to health. You probably have a concern. If it's like fashion, maybe it's a preference. I really like this type of jean, and I really want jewelry of this type or need. Maybe it's, I need this thing for my baby, like this very specific type of food or specific type of clothing. And so if you can come up with like, what is that conversation that you would have with that customer, you can completely automate it with the shop quiz, remember all that information, build this buyer profile, and then automatically sync it to all your marketing platforms.
Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah,
go
I'll
ahead,
add
Ben.
to this that we came up with this in part because we started with Facebook Messenger first, years ago. But when we had the conversations with our customers, they were all hacking our Facebook Messenger product to make these kinds of quizzes on their site. And when talking to them, we learned that, they all really wanted it. And obviously a quiz is something that other brands have thought about, but it's expensive to custom build these things. And even when you do that, it doesn't come with integrations or new updates or backend analytics or logic to go and build these things. And most of the time, the products that people use for something like Typeform, which was never even built for e-commerce. And so the end result is and neither was a good experience for the brand. And so we built it so that it's something that looks like your website, super easy to set up, doesn't require a ton of code, and then has the even bigger benefit of not just having this concierge experience on your site, but now having the entire customer journey personalized, the post-purchase, the messages you send after, because most people send a text message or an email or a Facebook message and it's all the same. It's the same message to all 100,000 customers, buy our thing, 10% off. When really, if you know that one group is 18 and has oily skin and another group is in their 30s and has dry skin, they should have two separate messages. They should have two separate experiences. And so if you do that, it's not only better for you as the brand, you just make a lot more money, but it's better for the end customer too. And they don't have a negative reaction to you or get tired of it over time because it's good for everyone.
Hey there, I'm Dave Zimmerman with Orca Pacific. I hope you're enjoying the show. I wanted to let you know this episode is brought to you by Orca Pacific, a Mighty Hive company. We're a full-service agency exclusively focused on Amazon with capabilities for everything a brand needs to succeed on the platform. From advertising strategy, content development and SEO, to merchandising and marketing. If it relates to driving and converting demand on the platform, our dedicated teams are leaders in this space. Our robust suite of services includes expertise on the back end as well, from operational support, demand forecasting and planning, to the right fulfillment options, and higher level strategies like long-term planning, channel management, and access to beta programs. To learn more, visit our website at www.orcapac.com. That's ORCAPAC.com. And a business development manager will get you up to speed on how we can accelerate your Amazon business. Now, back to the show.
So there's one thing I'm just curious about your opinion. You mentioned just kind of the different ways that you can use this to communicate with the customer. One of the more, I think, maybe controversial ways of communicating with customers is via text message. Do you guys have any thoughts on that, just in terms of best practices, like what brands should do, what they should avoid? It's this interesting, more kind of intimate way of communicating that you could very easily, I think, cross a line on.
Yeah, I think that, text messaging, you need to be very careful with it. The same way that you would be careful with a friend or someone you just met, right? So if you just met somebody and you don't know them super well, are you just going to text them every time you do something, or every time you take a photo, or every time you have a question? Probably not. Whereas if you have a friend, like Ben and I, we're really good friends, I can text Ben a bunch of random stuff, but I know that everything I text him is actually super relevant to Ben. He's either going to be interested in what I'm texting him, or if it's a question, he's going to have an answer to it. And that's just because we've built up a relationship. And so I think the better you do at building a relationship with the customer, the more opportunities there are to communicate them with such an intimate channel, such as SMS. So my two recommendations is, one, if you don't know the customer very well, don't abuse the channel, because they're going to get really pissed off, because that's a sacred, icon on their phone, right? So don't abuse it. And then the second thing is, customers are not against you texting them, but you have to be friends. And so do things that help build relationships with customers so that they actually appreciate and want everything that you're texting them.
Yeah, that's super interesting framework. Yeah, go ahead, Ben.
I'll add here too that one, text messaging marketing, when done correctly, really does just work, right? The open rates are sky high. We are seeing 40% plus click-through rates on Messenger and SMS, and huge convert, like actually higher sometimes, and huge conversion rates. So when it works, it works. And one, like with your quiz or with anything else, like give the customer the option of which way they want to communicate, right? Some would prefer email, but others will prefer like SMS or Messenger. We have like customers who use our quiz to like, which way do you want us to communicate with you? And a lot of them will select SMS, and that's great. The other piece of it is that the full circle here, personalization. The more personalized it is, the better it is for the customer and the better experience they have, right? Texting them 10 times a day about the same like campaign, the same 10% off, when really they are all different people, and you haven't like segmented them. That's where you start losing them. And so that personalization element is really critical to like a great like experience long term. So build a relationship, don't spam, definitely do it.
Yeah, that's super interesting. So I mean, it's the fact that it's less about the medium, it's more about kind of the upstream work that's been done to kind of set that stage, communicate, personalize the messaging is really the most important thing. And then, because even email, I think people are used to more spam in email, but that doesn't make it less annoying. It just makes it's sort of like a lower bar, but it's equally as annoying or not useful. So that customized concept is super interesting. So is this really all predicated on a quiz? And then like how does, like, if I do a quiz, probably fairly simple the first time I do it, so I don't have to spend 30 minutes, going through a quiz. Are there follow-up quizzes? Like, is there an element of then learning that happens post-quiz based on other shopping behavior? Like how does, I assume that there's something built in there.
Yeah, so the way we think about it is kind of like this: every customer has a buyer profile, and that's just like an accumulation of all the data that has been collected from them. And I think that a lot of brands right now, especially on advertising, they target third-party data that they don't actually own. And it's really important that as a merchant or a business owner, you are building up data that you own and you have permission to use, so that if Facebook or Instagram or whoever else changes how things work, you don't suddenly lose access to something that's made your business successful. And that's happened in the past a lot. So we collect data directly from the store. So shopping history, browsing history, that all automatically gets synced into the Octane AI account. History of notifications received on SMS or on Messenger. If the customer is answering questions on Messenger, we power an AI operated bot on Facebook Messenger. So if you're collecting preferences or email address or other, gender or other information, that's also getting synced. And then from the quiz. And the quiz, it's almost like a conversational landing page is a way to think about it. And so the most obvious use case is the onboarding experience for a new customer, where you're looking to ask them a couple questions, dynamically maybe changing what questions you ask or what answers you provide them based on, how the conversation is going, and then dynamically presenting them with results. This is like the most, obvious use case, but other use cases are, post-purchase survey. How do you find out about us? Like, did you, what are you looking to do with this? Like, did you find everything that you need? Like, how was your shopping experience? Gift finders, it's Valentine's Day. Like, let's help you find the perfect thing for your loved one. Or just kind of accumulating data over time on customers, because a quiz doesn't have to be 10, 30 questions. You could have something that just asks one question and you prompt somebody to answer that at some time in the customer journey. If you know this is someone who's like purchased multiple times from you, why don't we go figure out what makes them tick? Like, why did they purchase multiple times? So data can come from a lot of different places, and then you can have multiple shop quizzes powering different conversations. I think one super interesting use case. So right now, we came out with the shop quiz earlier this year, just a couple months ago. We already have people who are making millions of dollars a month on our platform. And so it's working really well. And we're kind of in this phase now where they're building up this data, right? So not only are they're generating revenue and they're helping customers find these products and they're syncing this first party data to their marketing channels, but I think the thing that I'm super interested in, and I think that this is going to flip a switch for them and make them a lot more money this holiday season, is imagine if you have a shop quiz. Now, previously, people came to your store, they looked at products, they left, and you could retarget them based on what products they looked at or added to the cart. With the shop quiz, we can basically use it to break people down and sort them into buyer personas, right? So if your store has 5 typical buyer personas, the quiz based on that data from your answers can drop you into which of those 5 you are. And then because we have a whole dashboard that the merchant can look at that tracks revenue and like drop-off rate and average order value, you can actually see what the average order value is for each buyer persona that people are sorted into. And we're already seeing examples where you're discovering that, oh, there's actually this buyer persona that I didn't pay much attention to, which has a triple average order value than any of the other ones. And so now what you can do is not just retarget those people, but because you're tracking this with a Facebook pixel event, you can actually go create a lookalike audience of not everybody who's purchased from you, but specifically this new buyer persona that you weren't aware of before. Go create a lookalike audience and then go tell Facebook to go find you more people who like to spend, triple the amount of money. And I think that that's only the beginning of what you're going to be able to do with this data. The second thing that I think is really interesting is we have a brand, Doe Lashes. They sell eyelashes that you can put on to be more glamorous. And one of the questions that they threw into their quiz was, and they didn't think too much of it, was how often do you use lashes? And it was like every day, once a week. Sometimes I've never used lashes. And them adding this question to the quiz was almost an afterthought. It wasn't like crucial to the results. It just like, I don't know, they put it in there. And it surprised them when they got the results after like 10,000 plus people had taken it, because the most popular answer was, I've never worn lashes before. Yeah. And they had no idea about this. They had no idea. Who would think that most people browsing your store were people who'd never had that product before? You would think that they were experts at this. And so they were able to take that information and then build out a completely separate welcome series based on just educating the customer on how to use a lash, what is a lash, what are the different styles you can use. And now that's opening up a whole new business opportunity for them. And I think that's really, really cool.
Yeah, that's great. You mentioned third-party data, and there's a big conversation going on around third-party data. A lot of legislation that's already in place, potentially new legislation coming up. How does this impact? Maybe we'll zoom out a little bit just from your product, but how does it impact personalization overall in your mind? And then how are you guys kind of adjusting to this new cookieless world that we're very rapidly into?
I want to give I've been thinking a lot about this a lot. And I think there's a couple ways in which there's 2 main ways in which you can collect data. You can collect it directly by asking questions and you're being straightforward or being not straightforward, right? Certain kinds of cookies and things. And we're just tracking this information and you didn't know. I think the big thing for a lot of people is, they don't want to have people taking information without them knowing. They want to be in the loop. They want to understand the value exchange, right? I think one beautiful thing about the shop quiz or just quizzes in general is that I am literally know that I am giving you this information and I know what the value and the result is, which is you're giving me a recommendation and you're personalizing things based on that. And it's super clear, what the exchange is, and it's super straightforward. You can't be more straightforward than I'm going to just directly ask you a question. You can answer it. You don't have to answer it. I think that helps a lot. It's going to be more important given what's happening with not just GDPR, but what's happening in California and other places on how that data is collected and those kinds of things. And then the other piece is just making the opt-in really explicit, and just this is what you're opting in for. And the more direct you are about it, not just the better, more legally sound you are, but also just the better it is for the customer and the more happier they will be and the higher the engagement rate on those who do opt in directly because they know what they're getting.
Yeah, interesting.
If you were relying on recommendation algorithms that are utilizing data that you didn't collect, and you're not doing a good job right now or making an attempt to collect first-party data, you're in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
And this is something that you should have been doing, a year ago, 2 years ago. And if you're not doing it right now, you should be doing everything you can to track everything yourself, store everything yourself. And some of that could be your own cookies. And some of that could be, asking questions in a quiz format. But if you're not doing that right now, strong recommendation is you need to be doing that because you're about to have a crazy wake up call soon.
Yeah. That's a great call out. Guys, this has been great. Anything else that you think our audience would benefit from knowing?
if you're not advertising on TikTok yet, they haven't shut that down. It's pretty
Not
crazy.
yet. Get after it.
But if it's 2020 and you still are underestimating TikTok, and they're still not shut down, and you should look into that, because I know a lot of people who are making a lot of money on TikTok because the CPMs you can get are insane. I mean, look, I personally have 800,000 followers on TikTok, and that's just in my spare time. And you could look at that and you'd be like, wow, he doesn't have talent to be, in getting 800,000 followers. How the heck did he do it? But you know what? It doesn't matter, because there's a lot of people who you could feel that way about on TikTok. But if you work with them, they can get you in front of 800,000 people.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter how good you think they are. They can actually get you in front of potential customers. So
you have 800,000 followers on TikTok. I feel like that's a whole separate podcast on how that happened.
At Matt Cat Bat, you can see just the most amazing drawings and other things. It's great. So I recommend.
I mostly draw stick figures. So
really cool.
I will give a more direct one, which is yesterday. Like, we dropped a 425-page playbook. We drop giant playbooks each year. Last year's was 250. This year it's 425, but it goes in depth into like how to do the quizzes and like what personalization is, and step-by-step instructions on how to do basically anything you would want with quizzes, Messenger, and SMS and opt-ins. That's why it's so long. It's just step-by-step. So it's just octaneai.com/playbook if you want to go and get the playbook. It goes super in depth. We also got like 50 plus experts to give their feedback, their advice on building stores, building your marketing, and on personalization.
Awesome. So obviously Octane AI to learn more about the product. How do guys how do people get in touch with you guys?
On Twitter, just Matt PRD. For anyone wondering what PRD is, I made it when I was at Ustream. It means product requirements document, because that's all I was doing at the time. So Matt PRD, or if you want to hit me up on TikTok, Matt Cat Bat, because that was the only name I could find after trying names for like an hour.
Awesome.
I am literally at Ben Parr, BenParr, on every social network that you can think of. Instagram, LinkedIn, Clubhouse, Twitter, whatever.
Friendster.
And it's like I'm sure there's an old MySpace somewhere. And then it's at Octane AI on all the social channels too.
Awesome. Hey, really appreciate you guys being on. This was great.
Woo. Thanks for having us.
Thanks, guys.